So one of my first role models and influencers was Deborah Diggs, who has passed away since. She was a professor at Tufts University, where I was at, where I went for undergraduate school. And she was the one who introduced me to poetry. And I took her poetry course by accident because I wanted to be a fiction writer, and all of the fiction workshops were filled up, and I was only a sophomore, so I didn't have standing yet to take, to get first in line at the registration office. So I signed up for Deborah's workshop, and I wrote terrible, terrible poems. So much that I swear, if she weren't such a nice person, I would have seen her eyes rolling. And then one day I was up for like 2 nights straight studying for finals or midterms or something. I don't remember what happened. And I must have accessed something in my subconscious, and a real poem came out. And she said, I don't know what happened to you, but this is a real poem and you are a real poet. And that was the turning point. So then I started to really think about poetry and study poetry. And my next mentor was Marie Howe, who is still with us, fortunately. And between the two of them, I think those were my luckiest years, because the two of them were so generous with their time and their skills. And it was a lovely 2 years. After that, I went on to study at University of California at Irvine. Most of my professors were men who were like, you'll never be a poet. I really don't care to teach you. And that was a very dismissive attitude, but also very common at the time. And then I came down to University of Miami, where I decided that I needed another degree because I wasn't quite done. And I got an MFA in fiction. But what I really went back to do, I think, was study poetry again. And I met John Balaban, who is an interpreter of Vietnamese poetry and also a wonderful poet in his own right, and just such a lovely person. And Maxine Cuman came, and I studied with her too. And I had a much better experience, and it brought me back to poetry. And I think that that experience at was just, again, a good turning point for me. So those were my biggest influences. I think John Balaban and Maxine Cuman, but in the beginning it was Deborah Diggs and Marie Howe, and all lovely people. Not just good poets, but lovely people. And I think that makes a big difference when you're an educator.